Konnichiwa Minasama, we are going to talk about the anime that aired this spring and rank them from worst to best, just like last year. Now, the worst anime to come out this spring is Liar Game. Guys, I wanted to like this anime so badly, but the level of disappointment that this anime gave me cannot be put into words. Okay, I read the manga of Liar Game and it was engaging enough because it tried something unique by combining mathematics with psychology. And I thought the anime would do the manga justice, but instead, the anime has one of the most terrible art styles I've ever seen. Like, the characters look terrible as hell, hence the glasses. Now, Akiyama san was supposed to be hot, but the art style ruins it, and I thought it was just a minor flaw, and I decided to ignore it and go on. But the protagonist, Nao-chan, is the most irritating character I have come across in a long time, okay? Because the anime explicitly states that Nao-chan is as honest as they come. Now, being honest does not mean that you have to be naive and dumb and not know when to draw boundaries, okay? You can be honest and not do all those things, okay? But Nao-chan is as stupid as they come. She believes everyone pretty easily, okay? And the story of Liar Game revolves around Nao-chan getting this letter from the organizers of the Liar Game along with a suitcase filled with 100 million yen. So basically, the letter states that Nao-chan must keep this 100 million yen with her, but in the span of 1 month, she must trick her opponent assigned to her to give her 100 million yen. So Nao-chan is just like, I don't want any part of this, and the opponent assigned to me is actually my teacher from 5 years ago. So obviously he might help me. So when she went to her teacher is just like, okay, we can keep our money in the bank and maybe they will not know anything and we can just report it to the police or whatever. So Nao-chan is just like, great. And obviously she's dumb enough to believe the teacher because the teacher is just like, haha, I tricked you. So you're not getting your 100 million yen back. Now, if you actually get tricked, then according to the rules, you will fall into a debt of 100 million. So Nao-chan is just like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? Okay, there's no way this guy is going to give it back to me. So she obviously waits for this con man named Akiyama-san. Now, Akiyama-san is arguably the best character in the anime and the manga because he is hella smart. He is a psychology graduate, okay? So, Akiyama-san goes to Nao-chan and is just like, oh, okay, you remind me of my dead mother because she was honest as hell. So, obviously, I'll help you. And they make it past round 1 with Nao-chan getting 100 million. Now, Nao-chan is just like, okay, I don't want any part of this. I'm not going to participate in the Liar Game. Okay, but then proceeds to round 2 anyway because her lawyer also turns out to be one of the con men from the Liar Game and kind of lures her in to participate. But it becomes too late for Akiyama to stop her. And up until then, I was enjoying the anime, ignoring the art style, being like, okay, as far as the manga is concerned, the pacing of the anime is on a point, okay? But in this part, after episode 6, Nao-chan's IQ goes to minus 30 points. She becomes mentally retarded, okay? Because this woman trusts people too easily, okay? Cries at everything and then just overacts in the most dire situations possible, okay? Like, I don't understand how Akiyama can tolerate her because if Nao-chan was with me, I would slap her across the face and I would be like, please, for God's sake, keep your mouth shut and let me focus on winning the game. Like, stop with your hyperactive reactions, okay? So obviously they win the second round also, and this woman walks out scot-free, no strings attached, okay? And from here we should have just followed Akiyama's story because Akiyama specifically said that he wanted to find who the organizers of the Liar Games were and why they are doing this, okay? But no, Nao-chan gets approached by the lawyer again, the one who tricked her into entering the second round, and he is just like, hey, listen, you kind of remind Akiyama of his dead mother who kind of committed suicide because she was being chased by these illegal loan sharks and she was too honest to actually fall into their trap, and because she was so knee deep in the debt, she kind of committed suicide because she was just like, okay, because of my debt, I think I cannot pay for my son Akiyama's graduation. Okay, and so now Chan is just like, oh my god, that is so tragic. And this lawyer is just like, yeah, so you are the only person who can save Akiyama. And now Chan actually believes it. Why? Okay, woman, you have no strings attached to that man, and that man explicitly said that this is his mission only. So obviously you should just be like, bro, I have nothing to do with this, okay? And you should have just kicked that lawyer out of your house, okay? But no, this woman actually goes in again, okay? And I don't understand why she chose to believe the person who betrayed her previously, and she is just like, okay, why not? And then she starts crying for being betrayed by that person, okay? Like in round 2, it was so obvious who the culprit was, okay? Even I could guess it, okay? But now Chan is just cribbing and crying and being like, oh no, I got tricked again. And everybody constantly calls her an idiot for being too honest and for just believing people very easily, okay? It's just so frustrating to watch. Now, I don't know if it's the acting or the directing or just how the story takes place, because it's been a long time since I read the manga. So I just think that it should have been Akiyama's story all along, because the dude had a clear motive. Okay, I would be down for the insanity and the psychology tricks he would use to actually win every round. Okay, now Chan is just needed to introduce us to this world of the liar game, and then she should have just left. Okay, now you are better off solving your calculus or integration, differentiation, or permutation combination problems rather than breaking your head over this anime. Okay, so this anime gets a 3 out of 10. The next anime on this list is Rent a Girlfriend Season 5. Yes, guys, I've endured 5 seasons of this. Do you want to know my secret? It is Nagin 7. So I gave all my credit to Ekta Kapoor and Star Plus. So in Rent a Girlfriend Season 5, I feel like a lot happens, especially when you compare it to season 4. And at first, I thought season 5 was going to be a filler season like season 4, and I thought of quitting after the first episode. But guys, episodes 2, 3, and 4 are absolute gems, because you can see that the animators and the voice actors have given it their 200%, okay? So basically, in episode 2, Chizuru's grandma kind of finds out that Chizuru is kind of a rental girlfriend thanks to Mami-san, okay? And here you can see the tension in everybody's faces, and obviously Granny is just like, what's the meaning of this? Okay, because she thought that Kazuya and Chizuru are dating for real, and Kazuya being like, listen, I really love Chizuru and I love her for who she is, and sure, she was a rental girlfriend, but now we're dating for real and everything. And here the voice actor of Kazuya gives his 1000%, because Kazuya crying and breaking down and confessing his love to Chizuru was actually believable. Even I was invested in his character for the first time, okay? And then Chizuru just being really silent, not knowing what to say, and others just being like, okay, what even is going on? Like, the tension was so thick, you could cut it with a knife, okay? So basically, after that, in episode 3, the scene prolongs where Kazuya is just like, no, I still love Chizuru, and Mami-san is just like, okay, whatever, you guys have to kiss. And here we see that Chizuru kisses Kazuya not once but twice, okay? And so Kazuya cannot get this kiss out of his head, and then they explain all of this to their granny. And then episode 4 ends. And then Rent a Girlfriend becomes Rent a Girlfriend again. Now, I will say that there is some level of character growth this season. Like, you actually see Chizuru kind of introspecting her feelings and all. But ultimately, if you've been around last year, then you kind of know the manga spoilers, the infamous rejection. So I see that this is kind of pointless, But it is nice to see how much effort the voice actors and the animators are putting into this, okay? And the only reason I can tolerate Kazuya is because these people, the Chetan Bhagat protagonists, kind of exist. Okay, but I feel like Kazuya is slowly getting closer to being one of the Chetan Bhagat protagonists, and it is not looking good. So, Rent a Girlfriend season 5, no surprise, gets a 4 out of 10. The next anime on this list is The Beginning After the End season 2. Now, guys, The Beginning After the End, or the PowerPoint After the End, is made as hell, okay? Like, sure, it's not much of a PowerPoint when it comes to season 2. I feel like the animation has improved just a little bit, and by little bit I just mean like 0.001%, okay? Because there is a lot of CGI involved when it comes to monsters, and it just looks very horrendous, okay? And at this point I don't even care about the characters. Like, shenanigans keep happening, but you just don't care. Like, you don't even know who Arthur is properly, and he is the protagonist of these stories. So, obviously, I was so checked out in season 1 that when the story progressed to season 2, I am just like, okay, the characters are fighting, yay, but it just looks meaningless because none of them hold so much weight, and I really don't see why I'm supposed to invest my time in these characters. So obviously I could not make it past episode 3, and Beginning After the End gets a 4.5 out of 10. I think that if you want to entertain 2-year-olds at home, then this anime is just for you. Let's move on. Now, guys, while we're in this category, I think it's very important for us to talk about the show Off Campus. I did not have it in me to make it past the first episode of this show. Okay, if I were to draw a silver lining for this show, it's just that the leads look like regular people who attend a regular university and talk like regular university students, okay? Now, this story is pretty tropey. Even though the acting is on point, none of the characters seem very interesting. Like, I just couldn't find anything to hold on to or anything to invest my time in to actually continue the series, because the plot points are something you have seen in other shows. Like, our protagonist Hana is pretty studious, but she needs a scholarship. But unfortunately, she needs to write a very good pop song to get that scholarship. And so she enlists the help of this guy named Justin, who is kind of in a band at the place she works at part time. So obviously, she has a pretty messy start by seeing our jock naked in the first scene or whatever, and so the jock kind of pursues her, and obviously we know that he catches feelings for her even though he says that he's not interested in a relationship or whatever, okay? And then these two kind of strike a deal to actually be in a fake relationship, because it turns out that this guy in the band loves hockey players, and so she is just like, okay, to get his attention, why not, we'll just start this fake relationship. So obviously after the first episode I'm just like, why should I even continue this show? Because I really don't have anything to look forward to, and mostly this show is going to be pretty predictable. But if I do find a day in my life where I have absolutely nothing to do, then maybe I will give this show a chance, okay? Otherwise, this show gets a 5 out of 10, mostly because the acting of the leads kind of save it. And so, let's move on. And now we enter the mid category for the anime that aired this spring. So the first anime is Kill Blue. Now, don't get me wrong, the premise of Kill Blue is pretty interesting. We have our Oga-san here, who is a 40-something-year-old man who is an excellent hitman, but his life is pretty empty since his wife left him and his daughter kind of doesn't talk to him. So he just drinks whiskey and goes to sleep after a long day of work. And one day, Oga-san gets bitten by a wasp. So he finds out that this wasp was designed by his wife, and he has apparently become a 13-year-old now. So he needs to infiltrate this middle school which his boss's daughter attends, only to keep an eye on his boss's daughter and eliminate all the hitmen and assassin who are after her. Now, this anime delves into a creepy category by episode 3 because apparently Oga-san has become friends with the boss's daughter, and he has eliminated some of the hitmen in episodes 1 and 2. So when the villain of the week shows up in episode 3, he is just like, "Oh, you got that pen from the boss's daughter. It means you are kind of engaged to the boss's daughter now." And Oga-san is just like, "Oh my god, what are you saying?" Okay. So the reason why this anime falls into the mid category is because they don't delve into the aspect of this 30 something year old guy being in a 13-year-old's body and trying to navigate the hell that is middle school. In fact, bro behaves like a socially awkward student, and he is just like, "Oh, okay, I love studying now since I haven't had the experience of going to a normal middle school. Hell, I didn't even have a normal childhood since all I was taught is to kill." So that was wholesome to watch, but also I just wish the anime delved more into the generational gaps and was a bit funnier. It would have been an icing on the cake. So this anime gets a 6.5 out of 10 because the action sequences are great and the intro is also pretty melodious. The next anime in the mid category is Ramparts of Ice. Now, Ramparts of Ice could have been an interesting anime because you have got our female lead, Koyuki san, who was kind of bullied in middle school, and she kind of built walls around herself and does not let anyone get too close to her. And everyone in high school kind of gave her a nickname as the Ice Queen. She has only one best friend, and also, she does not maintain close relationships with anybody and is just kind of cut off socially. So, all of that changes when our male lead obviously approaches her and kind of teases her and everything and aims to break her walls down. But here's the thing with Ramparts of Ice. I think a lot of other romance animes have done this trope better, and Koyuki san was bullied for being short. What era are we living in? Okay, so obviously the characters are pretty uninteresting, and the anime does something different by giving more romantic moments between Koyuki san and the male lead's best friend. I'm not a fan of this, but I do appreciate the anime for trying something different. But here it just doesn't hit because some sequences of misunderstandings that drag on for too long and they test my patience. So obviously, this anime gets a 6.5 out of 10. The next anime on this list is Marriage Toxin. Now, just like Kill Blue, I wish Marriage Toxin played around more with its premise and delved deeper into the comedic elements that its premise had to offer. So, Marriage Toxin revolves around our poison master Gero-san, who needs to find an heir ASAP. Otherwise, he and his clan might just go extinct because he belongs to one of the 5 families of assassins with special powers. Like, bro just injects toxins into himself, becomes super powerful, and it takes out all the hitmen. And also, he kind of injects toxins into the other hitmen or his enemies without their knowledge. So basically, if you miss Sakamoto days and if you want god tier animation, this anime is just for you. So in the first episode, when our poison master Gero-san goes on a mission, he finds this lady in distress, and he is just like, "Okay, since the guys who actually hired me to come here are the bad guys here, I will just save this lady and I will ask her for marriage." So basically, this lady who he saves is actually a guy, and he is just like, "Okay, I will be your marriage advisor instead." And so ensues a slice of life approach as our Gero-san encounters different foes in different episodes and different girls in different episodes, and you see him develop a wholesome friendship with all of these girls. So while it is an enjoyable watch, I just wish that this anime could be much more. Bonus points for the intro, so this anime gets a 7.5 out of 10. The next anime on this list is Classroom of the Elite Season 4. Now, people are a bit polarized when it comes to this anime because, on one spectrum, you have people who think that Ayano Koji is the smartest protagonist of all time and his intelligence rivals that of the most intelligent characters in anime like L or Johan. But some people think that Ayano Koji is just glazed too much and he is overhyped, and in reality, he is just stupid and just manipulating people who are bigger idiots than him. Now, I am in between. On one hand, I don't think that Ayano Koji is that smart. Like, in some cases, Ayano Koji's smartness is pretty debatable. But I also think that when it comes to hiding one's emotions, or when it comes to making the enemy not know about one's intentions, or when it comes to not being affected by emotions or not taking a decision solely based on emotions, then Ayano Koji is God, because no other anime character does it better than Ayano Koji when it comes to this. And I think that alone makes Ayano Koji smarter than Light Yagami, at least, because Ayano Koji does not let his emotions get the better of him. So, in Classroom of the Elite Season 4, Ayano Koji is trying to survive in high school, knowing that the literal chairman in the board is against him and has sent one of his pupils to expel him. And also, the White Room is just like, listen, we will throw an open challenge to you. We will send some students of the White Room to you, and if you can figure out who it is, then congratulations, you can stay in the school. But if you can't, then you need to get out. And all the first years are just like, listen, there is a 20 million bounty point on Ayano Koji's head, so we need to get him expelled. And it is fascinating to see Ayano Koji deal with all of that. I will say that Classroom of the Elite Season 4 is better than its previous season, and also I feel like we speed ran through some of the character development here. Like, Amasawa could have been explored much more. She was explored more in the light novel. But I do think that students of Class C were explored much more in the anime. I really did not understand it when I first read it in the light novel, but the voice acting was on point here. So, episode 12 was peak. So, by that logic, Classroom of the Elite Season 4 gets an 8 out of 10. I think it falls somewhere between the mid to best category. Let's move on. And now we are officially entering into the S tier for the best anime that aired this spring. And the first anime on this list is ReZero Season 4. Now, shenanigans kept happening in Season 3, and our heroes in Season 4 have to get Rem back. So they kind of do more shenanigans for it, like Emilia has to take an exam, and also Julius being like, hey, who is this spirit who possessed Anastasia? And he has his own set of problems to deal with, and he is just like, listen, the spirit who is not Anastasia kind of confined to you, Subaru. So basically, I will not take help from you, but Subaru is just like, bro, stop this. Okay, I need my character growth. So obviously, for the sake of our character growth, let's just help each other and let's just acknowledge each other as friends or whatever. And then you also have Subaru's deaths, which get more brutal. Basically, that scene in the cave, I got goosebumps. While we are on the subject of horror, I highly recommend you guys watch the movie Obsession. It is based on a very simple topic, but the turns that the story takes and the amount of times you need to introspect after coming out of the movie is simply mind-blowing. So Obsession is pretty creepy, but also it is a very unique take on psychological horror mixed with some supernatural elements. And here we see that in episode 8, Subaru loses his memories. So he has to relive the experience again of being dead and then coming back to the same place and then trying to figure this out entirely. Now, the amnesia trope works here because what Subaru went through is pretty interesting, and seeing him experience that again is also heartbreaking, but it also gives a sense of excitement because this time Subaru actually remembers his parents, while in season 1 he just did not remember anything about his old life. So, because of that, ReZero gets a 9 out of 10. The next anime on this list is Witch Hat Atelier. Now, it's important to talk about this anime because finally, we got a fantasy anime that has no isekai trope, no immature writing, very good animation, and characters that actually feel pretty wholesome and perfect pacing. Okay, I would even go as far as to say that Witch Hat Atelier is better than Freerun in terms of pacing. So, Witch Hat Atelier revolves around this girl named Coco who is just 10 years old and she aspires to be a witch. Now, when Coco was very young, she came across this mysterious voodoo magic guy in the street and he just gives a book of forbidden spells to her. But little did Coco know that that book is actually the most dangerous thing in the world of Witch Hat Atelier. So, in this world, people actually believe that witches are born and not created, but in reality, witches can be made as long as you can draw the spells with perfect accuracy. So, Coco finds that out at the end of the first episode and accidentally freezes her mother and her entire house frozen style. So, it's up to Kifri-san to rescue Coco and actually make her his apprentice. And in ensues some Hogwarts like shenanigans. Obviously, the kids develop a wholesome bond with each other, and every episode has this level of stakes which are easily overcome by Kefri. Now, people compare Kefri to Gojo. I think the similarities only end in the character design and how Kefri cares for his students. Other than that, I feel like Kefri is more mature than Gojo, and obviously he is more level headed in terms of approach. And you actually see Kifri panic in certain situations when his students are missing. Okay, but for Gojo, he knows that his students will come and rescue him. He knows that his students are kind of strong to face any danger, and his students are like high school kids. So obviously, Gojo is more confident in his students, while Kifri is just like, no, no, they are baby ducks, and I am the mother duck. So obviously, I don't think they are safe if I leave them in a very dangerous place. Okay, so I think that Kifri is just like a preschool teacher, while Gojo is just like your chill college professor. So comparing them just doesn't make sense to me. Other than that, I think Witch Hat Atelier is a superb anime, so it gets a 9.5 out of 10. Moving on to Doctor Stone Season 4, Part 3. Now, I think that Doctor Stone is criminally underrated and it is one of the best sci fi animes to ever exist because it treads the line between being sci fi and being grounded. So, Dr. Stone tells the story of our science prodigy Senku, who only cares about science and is obsessed with the number 10 billion for some reason. So, on one fateful day, where Senku's best friend Taijokun decides to propose to the love of his life Yuzuriha, humanity kind of gets petrified by this Medusa race. Okay, so for 3,700 years, Senku and all of his other friends and the entire human race itself is turned to stone. So Senku kind of gets revived because he was counting the seconds since he was petrified. And Senku's foster father or his mentor Byakuya was in space at that time, which means he did not get petrified. So when he landed on Earth, he is just like, oh my god, okay, humanity has been petrified, so obviously it's up to us to kind of rebuild the civilization and whatever. So he kind of designs a village for Senku to come back to, and he kind of has faith in Senku to come back to the village and also leaves precious metals for Senku in case Senku decides to invent something. So season 1 deals with Senku going up against Tsukasa, who acts as an antagonist because Tsukasa is just like, listen, if you plan to depetrify all the humans at this instant, then obviously the world will fall into chaos again because people will start fighting over the power dynamics. And Senko is just like, yes, but you are nobody to decide who to revive and who shouldn't be revived. And Tsukasa is just like, oh yeah, fight me on that. And then season 2, Senko is just like, oh yeah, Tsukasa, I do remember that your sister is kind of brain dead, but we can kind of revive her with this fluid because petrification, as it turns out, has healing properties. So Tsukasa is just like, cool, I'm on your side now. And season 3 sees that Tsukasa is kind of wounded because he's kind of on Senku's side now, and all his subordinates are just like, bro, what the hell? So they kind of hurt him. So Senku is just like, no, I need to get the petrification device and I need to heal Tsukasa because obviously medical care is not that advanced now since it's been 3,700 years after we lost everything. So basically, Senku travels all the way to the other side of the world to get the petrification device after undergoing petrification himself, and he kind of petrifies Tsukasa and then brings him back with the revival fluid. And he is just like, we need to build a rocket to go to the moon because, as it turns out, the one who petrified us lives on the moon, and we call him Y-Man because turns out that Y-Man, because I'm the main character of the story, imitates my voice sometimes when Y-Man catches on the frequency of the telephone that we just built back in season 2. And finally, these people meet their mentor. And Dr. Stone implies the logic of never meeting your heroes, but you can only meet your heroes as long as they are kind of grounded and pretty reasonable. And it is very amusing to watch as Senku drags people to his side without any persuasion, just through his sheer passion of science. And that makes him a very unique protagonist and also a very lovable protagonist. Every character in Dr. Stone is very lovable. So, cut to season 4, where everybody is just like, okay, we are going to rebuild the human civilization. So they invent a bunch of things, but mostly the focus is on inventing the rocket to go to space. So obviously, Senku, Yuzuriha, and we have General Stanley going into the rocket and confronting the big bad who is responsible for petrifying the human race for 3,700 years. And then they pull a Venom like twist on you by saying that Y-Man actually is a parasitic machine. And obviously, you're just like, hey, if it's a machine, then who the hell invented it? Okay, it's not like you guys know who invented you, okay? And that's not my words, that's the Y-Man Medusa's words. So obviously these people are just like, okay, cool. So these machines are just like, listen, you humans are doom scrolling idiots, okay? So we thought that you were kind of intelligent because of the amount of electromagnetic waves you guys are producing, but you guys can't even create more of us. So obviously we can't wait around for evolution to happen. So we are going to find new species and we are going to stop petrifying you. So Senku is just like, okay, yeah, good riddance. I'm off to build a time machine. Now, Dr. Stone gets bonus points for including India in it. So basically, Senku and some of his members go to India to revive a software engineer named Sai from petrification. Now, Sai happens to be Ryusui's cousin or close friend, and he is just like, listen, Ryusui is too greedy, so I am going to escape to India for it. And obviously, I think this is a common stereotype since Sai happens to be a software engineer and he loves computer and he loves coding. But nevertheless, Sai played an important role in building a rocket for Senku so that Senku can go to space. And he also helped in building a smartphone and introduced a literal computer in the Stone Age. So I think Dr. Stone comes to a very satisfying conclusion, and because of that, it gets a 9.5 out of 10. And now, the best anime to air this spring is Go For It, Nakamura-kun. You guys, this anime had no right to be this relatable and quirky and wholesome. I laughed a lot while watching this anime and every episode left me with a smile, okay? So, the premise of Go For It, Nakamura-kun is pretty simple. We have our protagonist, Nakamura-kun, who has a massive crush on his classmate Hirose. Now, Nakamura-kun is not sure about his classmate Hirose's sexuality, so he is just like, okay, I think it's good enough for me if Hirose is just my friend. But that attempt to befriend Hirose takes a toll on Nakamura-kun because every episode shenanigans keep happening to him whenever he tries to hatch a plan to get close to Hirose. So in episode 1, when Nakamura tries to approach Hirose just to say hi, he ends up stepping on Hirose's favorite handkerchief, and Hirose is just like, what? Because Nakamura is practically a stranger to Hirose, but Nakamura has had a crush on Hirose since the first day of high school because he just loved how kind and extroverted Hirose was to everybody. So the imaginary scenarios Nakamura had in his head anytime he thought over his plan to befriend Hirose were the same scenarios I used to have when I tried to pursue a guy I had a crush on back in high school. So obviously Nakamura is pretty adorable that way, and anytime Hirose talks to Nakamura, or whenever Nakamura and Hirose are together, and whenever Hirose asks Nakamura to walk home with him, it feels like a personal win. And so this anime gets a 9.5 out of 10 if I haven't mentioned it already. So if you guys want to be happy, then ignore the fact that this anime is a BL, okay? And if you can't do that, then pretend that Hirose is a girl if you have to. But if you want to find some joy in your life, then please watch this anime. And that's a wrap on all the anime that aired this spring. Now, let's stay here for a very important discussion, okay? I think that The Boys finale is way better than Stranger Things because I actually care about the characters in The Boys. I care about Homelander, I care about The Deep, I care about A-Train, I also care about Starlight and Huey. Hell, I don't even think they are that horrible people, okay? While in Stranger Things, I don't care about anybody. Like, literally, nobody has a personality, okay? Everybody's personality just fizzled out in season 3, and I don't even care about the new cast that just got added. Hell, if anybody just dies, I don't even think I would cry for them like the way I did for A-Train or Terror. So obviously the finale of The Boys is much superior compared to Stranger Things in that regard, because The Boys actually kills off its characters and makes you cry for them, while the Stranger Things just doesn't. And they were just like, oh, even though we killed 11, some fans genuinely believe that 11 is alive. And I feel like Eric Kripke kind of cared about his show and kind of tried to end it in a very satisfying way, okay? But here, you can see that the Duffer Brothers kind of don't care about their show, and they kind of forgot what show they were writing, because there are a lot of inconsistencies in Stranger Things when you compare it to The Boys. Like, sure, The Boys has some consistencies, but not as much as Stranger Things, okay? And the plot holes in The Boys are not as huge when you compare it to Stranger Things, okay? At least you didn't have the collective psychosis where you thought that, oh, there is a secret 9th episode of Stranger Things coming, because The Boys wraps up everything by killing off its antagonist, Homelander, in a very satisfying way. So I think The Boys is a far superior show with a very good finale, and it definitely did not deserve an IMDb rating lower than that of the Stranger Things finale. So if you've bared with me on this rant, then thank you so much for making it till here. You have nerves of steel. Arigatou gozaimashita. Kiyotsukete. I'll see you in the next video, hopefully with my glasses off.